Hey everybody, if you've been wondering about how tarot fits into your everyday, like just the day to day of your day, I've had a quick little series going on. It's been a minute since I've gotten back to it about tarot in your everyday, and we've been talking a lot recently about what does it mean to like do a one card pull and how can you think about one card pulls. Well, today I want to talk about how tarot shows up in your day as different symbols or different omens about what you can expect to be happening during your day. And you don't need the deck with you to do this, but I'm going to reference 4 different decks during the course of this, and I'm going to reference the Emperor card in each one, because there have been times where the Emperor, over the last year or so, have just appeared in my life. You can do this with other divination systems as well, even like runes. I've seen runes appear throughout. Like I was walking one day from the train to my house. I live in Chicago. I was walking from the L, and on the ground was the shadow. The sun was shining, and there was a shadow of Gibo. Gibo? I think I pronounced that wrong. Gebo rune in front of me. It was right there. And actually, no, it was it. If when I looked back at the thing, it was a railroad crossing sign, so that's what it made me think of. But the shadow was actually a Hegel rune, which was the X like Gibo, and then the line through the top, so it was like an X with a line. Anyway, it was kind of cool to see the rune, and it was a message for me at the time. That's what I mean by seeing symbols or recognizing omens in your day, because the symbol itself may remind you of a card, like two birds flying through the sky might remind you of a card that has two birds in it. Like in the Handle Tarot, the Hanged Man has two birds in it. And they're referencing thought and memory. So if I see two birds flying by, then it makes me think about, as a symbol, my thoughts, my memories, what's important about them, what was I thinking about when those birds came by, what do I need to be cognizant or more mindful of because that symbol was there. And then maybe something like that rune is an omen. What do I need to pay attention to from this point on based on the message of that rune for the rest of my day? So similarly, as I was going through the last year and just being kind of outside last summer in Chicago, I was out in different parts of the city, and across from the building that I work my day job is a beautiful park where I'll go eat lunch. And there is, you've probably seen this on my Instagram, or if you've been on my Facebook page, there's a statue of Lincoln, and he's sitting down, Abraham Lincoln, sitting kind of like the one you'd see at the Lincoln Memorial, just a lot smaller and without tons of tourists. And it is kind of in this space that has big seating behind it. You can go sit next to it. Well, every time I see it, it reminds me of the Emperor and the Rider-Waite, because you actually can walk right up to it, but the way you see it is peripherally if you're sitting down next to it. So it looks like the Emperor of the Rider-Waite. And so every time I see him, it reminds me of this Emperor, and that maybe there's a message that I need to know about the Emperor, or the leadership of the Emperor, or the experience of the Emperor, the unmovingness of the Emperor, or the stubbornness or the unwaveringness of the Emperor. And then how do I also associate it with what I know about Lincoln? So maybe there are monuments, statues, something that you're walking by, maybe even a person who's in the same spot every day, that maybe reminds you of one of the cards in your deck, like the Emperor. There's also, in that same park, on a completely different day, I was sitting in a different part of where this Lincoln statue is, and I was just looking out. I was just kind of gazing out. I was done eating. I was just letting my eyes go across the skyline, and there was this huge tree. And there's a lot of trees in this park, but there was this gigantic tree, and the more I looked at it, the more I realized it reminded me of the Emperor in The Wild Unknown, because it was actually built a lot like this tree. There weren't other trees around it. It was like surviving very steadfastly on its own. It'd been there for a long time. It had a commanding presence. And the sun was even, I mean, there wasn't an eclipse. Actually, I think it was near the eclipse. No, the eclipse was coming. It was to happen. But the sun was also kind of it was on one side or the other, I don't remember now. So it was this big tree with the sun behind it, and reminded me of the Emperor. So the Emperor just kept showing up. So that, how else do I see the Emperor from other decks? Where else might I find it? And in my favorite deck, my trusty Handle deck, this is the Emperor from Handle. He's much more Aries, much younger than what we would traditionally see in the Rider-Waite, this kind of older man who's been around for a long time. We have a younger, more impulsive leader who still has the symbols of leadership, including a little crown-ish type thing on his head. But he's also got that big tree behind him, just kind of like in the Rider-Waite. You might think of this more like I always pronounce this wrong too, that Celtic tree that is the tree of life, tree of the gods. Yggdrasil? I'm going to say it wrong. You know what I mean. And then behind him is this intense, lush, thick forest. But he's also naked and virile. So where do you see this? Other than maybe porn, where do you see this? You see it on TV. You see it in young, fresh actors who have got something to prove. You see it in the jock on the football field. You see it in professional athletes. You see it in that guy at work who's got a little bit more to prove than anybody else, and you're not quite sure why, but he does. Like, he feels like he's got it. So this guy shows up in multiple places. You may also see him just walking down the street, as opposed to this guy who you're probably not going to see just walking down the street. This is a little more real life, I think, in his activity. All right. Then, from the Spellcaster's Tarot, and I haven't thought about this one yet, but here's the Emperor in the Spellcaster's Tarot. Got quite the pan figure. He's got acorns, he's got moose horns, deer head, male body, cow's hooves. He's pretty furry. In fact, his hooves are so split, they look very much like cow's hooves don't split. Those are goat's hooves. Pretty furry. He's got all the symbols of his leadership around him, and he's got these. He's also still got Aries in his throne and in his feet. Anyway, where would you see this? Where would you see this in your day-to-day? And I'm trying to think, where would I see something like this in my day-to-day? What would remind me of seeing something like this? Maybe art, because I'm so close to the Chicago Museum. Maybe I'd see the symbol of the fire. You hope I wouldn't see this in my day-to-day? Can you imagine? Although I do feel like there are times when I see this kind of intensity in my day-to-day. So, because he also looks huge too, right? So this is like the beast of a person that comes at you, that either their personality is so huge or their body is so huge that they're intimidating. You may also, what else may remind you of this day to day? You might see like a bust of a deer on a wall, or a bust of a moose on a wall. You can just see the head. You might see other, I forget what it's called, taxidermied animals that remind you. You might see a wildfire or a slash burn, depending on what part of the country you're in. Maybe you'll see the wheat field or the long grass that's back here, and it'll remind you of this card. So those symbols, those omens, they show up in lots of different ways. That is usually in Hobby Lobby. So maybe every time you walk into Hobby Lobby, you might be reminded of the Emperor from the Spellcaster's Tarot, in which case it is truly, it's a symbol for you. It's a message for you. It could potentially be an omen for you that the Emperor has made himself or themselves known in order for you to receive a message about the Emperor in the way that either you need to be in your day, or you can expect in your day, or that you can draw on to be a part of your day. Or maybe it truly is that omen that you're going to run into the Emperor somewhere and you're going to need to address the Emperor in a way that is successful. And it's just that little omen saying, hey, it's coming, it's coming. So, all right. So that's your quick down and dirty tarot every day. I hope this is helpful. I always add these into my Learning Tarot playlist. If it is helpful, don't forget to subscribe so we can keep track of each other. And I do hope that, and thank you for that thumbs up, that if you do like this and you're watching this on the replay, that you hit that thumbs up, because not only does it let me know it's useful, it'll get it in front of other people so they can take advantage of it as well. By the way, it is Sunday, the 10th of March, and today, I had 2 podcasts come out. I have the hiccups all of a sudden. 2 podcasts come out. One is with Teresa Reed, the Tarot Lady, over at Tarot Bites. So if you're a podcast junkie, listen, go find Tarot Bites, BYTES. Tarot Bites are short, entertaining clips about tarot, and Teresa and I talk about tarot patterns, and we had a good time talking about it, so I think you'll enjoy it. Also, had another one come out with Cardsy B, and if you're a Cardsy B fan, she created the Badass Bitches Tarot. You can find Cardsy B's podcast by Googling Badass Bitches Tarot. You can also find her on wherever you find podcasts. She's on Podbean if you're a Podbean person. And she's also on Instagram. She's all over Instagram, Cardsy B. Anyway, Cardsy B and I did kind of a getting to know you session. So that was a lot of fun too, where I talk about my favorite and least favorite tarot cards and a few other things that I think about tarot. We had a great conversation. And I encourage you to listen to both of those. So thank you all for being here, and I'll see you later.